Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I trust everyone is well. Thank you for allowing the time to join us today for the first of this four-part Civil Designer software version 8.5 launch mini-series. The next three webinars in this series will take place over the following 3 Thursdays, with version 8.5's official launch being Thursday the 11th of November, the same day as the final webinar. As attendees of this webinar series, we'll directly email you the version 8.5 download link on the 11th of November. Back to today's webinar, where we welcome back Cameron Boyle, who will be covering visualization in Civil Designer version 8.5. In the modern design office, during all stages of the design process, not just the advanced final stages, immediate internal three-dimensional rendering of a project can be used to check the integrity of the proposed civil infrastructure services coordination, accessibility, and maintainability. So, what do we mean by internal three-dimensional rendering? This is direct rendering, which is internally created and then viewed in our design software application, meaning there is no need to export a large file out of the design software application to be saved, opened, rendered, and then only viewed in a third-party rendering software application, with this process needing to be repeated for absolutely every single design change. Civil Designer's integrated internal three-dimensional visualization thus allows for the real-time comprehension of vast amounts of consolidated live design data, enabling the easy identification of possible design issues, improvements, and the communication of the project itself at any stage to all your project role players, technical and non-technical. During Cameron's presentation today, please feel free to use the text chat service on your GoToWebinar app or web page to ask us any questions you may have during his time. After today's webinar, we'll post a copy on our website in the webinar section. So, good afternoon again, Cameron, and please take it away.
Thank you very much, Charles. Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm very excited to show you some of the new functionality of Civil Designer 8.5. As Charles just mentioned, today I'm going to be focused on visualization, emphasizing internal dynamic 3D rendering. This is going to revolutionize the way you verify your designs. In front of us, you might be thinking, I've gone to the View menu and split the views vertically. But in actual fact, I'm utilizing Civil Designer's new rendering settings. If you right-click in this render view, you have the option to render to a separate window. This gives you the ability to make design changes in the drawing window and see the dynamic or live update in the render view. Alternatively, if you want to view different perspectives in the render, you can do so. You could even select to do a fly-through in the render. Your fly-through can be paused for an instant to view something beneath the ground and then continue to view your site in any perspective possible. Not using any third-party software, you have the option to save this video capture for your client or for your important presentations. There are numerous new functions I'm going to be showing you in this first of 3 projects. I will start off with the shading order of multiple perimeter terraces on one surface. Surfaces in 8.5 can now be shaded in numerical order. This puts you in control of how these terraces are displayed. I will be announcing an exciting new road signage module for custom road entities, where if you insert road signs, markings, and linear road furniture, these entities will dynamically update as you make changes to your design. We'll also take a look at specifying unit lengths of curbs for IFC export and display purposes. To end off this project, we'll look at something that all our clients have been raving about, looking at the road textures. In Civil Designer 8.5, you have the option or the ability to specify separate textures for each road in your project. Returning to the shading order of multiple perimeter terraces on one surface. I'm then going to go and update the plan view. You'll notice that all my banks are switched on. This is done under your display settings, selecting bank settings here on the left, and then you can go and specify which bank surfaces you want displayed. In addition to this, if you go and select surfaces, Each surface has an order that it's shaded at. That is because of this icon here. You can see over here we've got natural ground and it's in order number 1. I can then go and move that down to, let's say, below phase 3. Let's go and see what the update looks like. Clicking on OK, switching off the shading, and then OK again. Looking in the plan view, you can see some surfaces are viewed, and those are the surfaces in cut. And if I go and select my render view, press S, you can see it's been updated as well. Returning back to the functionality, selecting shade order, I'm going to take that natural ground surface and then move it down to the bottom of all the other surfaces. If I click on OK, you can see it's been updated in plan. Looking at the render, all of those surfaces are turned off. Some of the surfaces don't display the banks, and that is because we are in cut. You'll also see that the roads are switched off. If I want to return things to normal, I can go back to the functionality, select shade order, and click on reset. In that case, the natural ground level is the first surface again, and everything looks like it should. Moving on to the next function. Earlier on I mentioned I'll be announcing an exciting new road signage module for custom road entities, where if you insert road signs, markings, or linear road furniture, these entities will dynamically update as you make changes to your design. This additional signage module will be added at a later stage in the near future. To explain this functionality, in my plan view, I'm going to go and make the roads active. And I'm then going to put in a cul-de-sac sign. So going to signage, add road signs, select which option to use, W104 in this case, click on import selected. Go and specify where you want to place this road sign, and this is applicable to junctions as well. Specify in which direction you want it to point. So in plan, it's inserted the sign in 2D. If you go and select the render view, press S, you'll see that Civil Designer inserted in a 3D format as well. In addition to that, if you go and select the cul-de-sac in this case, and you go and make a change to the design, you can do horizontal as well as vertical changes. I'm just going to go and change the horizontal alignment, press escape. Civil Designer will then go through the recalculate process. You'll see that the display is updated in plan, and if I press S to refresh in the render, it also updates it there. This custom road entities functionality will also be applicable to the linear road furniture and road markings. If you are wondering how I got to display my curbs in different lengths like this, in Civil Designer 8.5 you can specify the unit lengths of curbs. This is also useful when exporting to IFC or BIM format. In the plan view, I've gone and selected the road that we are busy with. I can now go to alignment, edge levels, edit super. At the bottom I'm then going to select curbs left. Go and select the HB1, right click, select curb selector. At the bottom go and click on edit curb. You'll see we've got an additional tab here, unit lengths. You have the option of specifying your own maximum and minimum radius. You can also go and specify what unit lengths you want. Each curb in your road can have its own specific settings. This is very useful when you're using specific curbs in your medians. Closing this. And zooming in. That will give you a better idea of how your curves are represented. Then to end off with, as I mentioned before, very popular with our clients, is looking at your road textures. Within Civil Designer 8.5, you have the ability to go and customize the textures for each individual road within your project. This is done by selecting the display settings. Over the years, we have introduced many different module shading settings that we thought it was time to relocate the road shading to a new location. Remember to switch on draw shading. In previous versions, you only had the standard setting where you could specify the textures for the entire project. Within the new version, we give you an additional custom option where you can go and specify different pen colors for the individual roads and different textures. Browsing to the right, looking at the different road entities. If, for instance, you want to change your carriageway, you can click on this down arrow and go and select one of 40 different options available to you. As a reminder, if you want to use these textures, you need to right-click in your render view and go and switch on Enable Textures. Also, take note that we do advise that you use a good display card. Done with this project for now. I'm going to close the rendering and I'm going to close the project and move on to the next one. There are numerous functions I'd like to show you within this project, but before doing so, I'm going to switch off that awesome new separate window functionality. I'm going to start off with auxiliary services. In older versions, you may be more familiar with the crossing services. A lot of development has been done to incorporate categories of these services to be utilized in IFC or BIM exporting. In addition to that, we have the option of introducing head walls at nodes. I will show you how this is done. Then we'll move on to the RRL grid method in order to determine your water film thickness. I'll explain some of these toolbars on the right hand side of your render view. We'll also look at clashes while you're doing a fly along road entity. To start off with, let's go and introduce auxiliary service with your new head walls. Go into auxiliary services on top, selecting graphical add auxiliary service, specify a start point and an end point. It doesn't matter how far off the toe points you are. A civil designer will automatically insert the nodes at the toe points. You can then go and specify which settings to use for these auxiliary services. All the old tools are there, so you can still extract the invert levels. In this case, I'm then going to put in a vertical offset of positive 0.1 because I want the head walls to stick out a bit. Now we've introduced this node structure. So if you've got none there, nothing happens. If you select head wall, you have this additional dialog where you can go and specify your different dimensions according to the diagram on the left. At the bottom here, this is what I was referring to earlier, where you can go and specify the category for your IFC export. We also give you the option to insert an index into your road file automatically. That's what it looks like in cross-section. Closing that, I'm then zoom in to show you what it looks like. You can see both on the northern and the southern side we've got our head walls. If you go to your display settings, you'll see that we've changed the display dialog for auxiliary services to look similar to your sewer and your storm. Moving on to the next function, we're looking at the water film thickness. You can now use the RRL grid method to determine your water film thickness. By the way, these red arrows indicate the longest drainage path. I'm going to my layer settings. I'm going to turn off the existing display settings for this film thickness. And then I'm going to select the road and then go to Tools and then scroll down to Water Film Thickness. On the top, you can go and specify which analysis method to use. You can go and specify your start and end channage, your rainfall intensity. Further down, and we've spent quite a bit of time customizing this for you, you can go and specify your maximum shading depth as well as your shading step. As you go and make changes to this, you can see the colors would update. You can go and customize these colors according to your project specifications. Reverting back to my original settings, at the bottom you can go and specify your depth label threshold. Anything above 0.5 millimeter will be labeled. The vertical exaggeration updates your display in the render view. that 75 can be increased to as much as 500 in your render. It goes through the waterform thickness calculation. Because it's a dual carriageway, it does both edges. I'm going to show you what this looks like in a rendering, and before I do that, I'm going to go and switch off my enable textures. I'm now going to go and right click and select render view. Once you're in the render view, if you right click again, you'll see you've got additional options. One of these options is to go and create viewports. This is done by pressing Ctrl and a number on your keyboard. Further down the list here, we have the option to fly along road entity. If you've right-clicked on the road, this option is available. In your drive-through, you can use these to slow things down and make things faster, or you can use your mouse wheel. And then in addition to that, you've got these buttons to move up and down, left and right. You can also use the arrow keys on your keyboard. We give you different environmental settings to choose from. Take note that in Civil Designer 8.5, the DTM is displayed correctly under the bridge. Carrying on with our environmental settings, and as we approach this on-ramp onto the highway, these road markings can now easily be inserted by using the new drape hatch functionality found under the road's signage menu. Changing my environmental settings and moving to the right. As we approach some crossing surfaces, I'm going to go beneath the ground. Looking at these pipes, I'm going to slow things down somewhat. And while I'm busy moving, I'm going to press the letter V on my keyboard. If I go and move my cursor, you can see there's a yellow balloon, and that yellow balloon indicates that we've got clashes between our services. In front of us, this is where we inserted the auxiliary services with the automatic head walls, and this can be viewed from any perspective. Up ahead, where we've got the water film thickness, you can see the vertical exaggeration really looks impressive in the render view. Using the arrow keys on my keyboard, moving up, pressing V to lock the view, and then using my mouse wheel to speed things up, I can use the drone approach and fly along the road. Pressing escape and then changing my zoom view. On the right hand side, we've got some toolbars that you can use. You can rotate your drawing by 90 degrees. You can use the cube on the top to change your perspective. You can zoom out, you can zoom in, and then reverting back to my viewport. This last icon here is the option of turntable or arcball. Turntable is a very controlled movement. Pressing Ctrl at the same time results in the rotation of the drawing as if it were a turntable that is only rotated around the Z-axis. This avoids any unwanted tilting from occurring. In most cases, you should use the turntable. The other option is an arcball rotation. As the name suggests, it rotates the project as if there was a big transparent ball around the portion of the drawing you are looking at. Therefore, this movement is more evident. If I right click again, I have the option of circle around, and this gives you the ability to view this interchange, for example, in a 360-degree perspective. As a recap, and using our previously defined viewports, let's take a look at some of the functions we looked at in this project. Exiting the render. We're done for this project, so I'm going to close it and then move on to our final project. This project, I'm going to look at sight distance, and I've selected this particular project for a reason. As you can see over here, this project is full of different cut and fill conditions. There's also a lot of horizontal bends. When you go and do this type of design, you want to be sure that you're able to adhere to certain sight distance criteria. So we've made it easy for you. If you go to alignment and you select design criteria, here you can go and select which design criteria you'd like to use. Specify your design speed. And with that, you'll see there's an additional tab here called sight distance. In this case, according to the TRH, we've got the stop-in, pass-in, barrier, and decision sight distance. As you go and select the different options, you can use the mouse wheel and browse through the different eye and object height. Clicking on OK to this, we'd only utilize it. I'm going to go and select this minor road, let go of the selection, then go to Alignment, check Sight Distance, and go and specify I want a sight distance type of stopping. All the values that you specified in the design criteria is grayed out, so you no longer need to go and make changes to that. You can, however, go and change your eye offset as well as your start and stop channage, so it's not necessary to do the entire road range. Specify which pen settings to use and which line types to use. Once you're happy with the CAD layer, click on OK. It will go through the design process. You go and specify where you want the results. Once done, you can zoom in. Your results will be displayed using your display settings that you specified before. You can see it in the vertical alignment. You can see it at the bottom here. If I were to go and close the vertical alignment, the results will also be present in your output bar. Closing the output bar, I want to give you an indication of the CAD layer that Civil Designer has given us. Changing my zoom view, these CAD layers can be used to go and customize your road markings. Looking at the main road, I'm going to go and select it, press Escape, go back to Alignment, check Sight Distance. Instead of selecting Pass-in Sight Distance option, for fly-through settings and for visual demonstration purposes, I'm then going to select the manual option. Specify my eye height. I'm going to change the minimum sight distance to 200 and change my object height to 250 mils. Happy with the rest of the settings, take note of my ascending and descending channage direction, letting Civil Designer do the calculations for me. Once complete, let's go and close the vertical alignment. Zooming into the CAD layer again, you got a nice indication of where you can't see the object. Using that information, I can go to signage, add road markings, linear markings, regulatory markings, and select no overtaken lines. I can then go and customize where I want to place these road markings. Let's go and view that in a rendering. I'm going to turn off the contours for now and go and right click and select render view. Again, on the road, I'm then going right click and this time select fly through. I'm then going to specify settings to use for visual demonstration purposes. Once done, I'm going to click on Run Fly-Through. The blue line represents descending channage direction. The red line is applicable to this drive-through. Where you cannot see the yellow beacon, the red line indicates where to insert the no overtaking road marking. That's about all the time we have for today. Hope you really enjoyed this newer Civil Designer visualization webinar. Until next time, cheers for now. Back to you, Charles.
Thank you very much, Cameron. That was awesome. And more importantly, thank you very much to all of you who attended today's first version 8.5 launch webinar. Please join us next week, Thursday, at the same time and place being the same link, where Andrew Cole will be covering design data interoperability, using BIM IFC files, among others, in Civil Designer version 8.5. This webinar will be in place of the monthly Open Classroom webinar, which will resume on the 25th of November. Should you require any further information with regards to today's demonstration, please use the email address listed on your screens right now. Please also visit our website and follow our Civil Designer company page on LinkedIn. Once again, thank you very much for your time today. See you next week, Thursday. Have a great afternoon and weekend, and goodbye for now.